Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bettina and I'm the makeup enthusiast. In today's video, we're doing my October update on my favorite project pan series that I've been doing this year, and that is my Pan That Palette series. I currently have 4 palettes in this project, and you know, we're making fairly decent progress on this project at the moment. I think the way I'm going, I think at the end of the next update, so for my November update, I think I might call it quits on this project depending on how I'm feeling. I may continue on with maybe the face palettes, but I think maybe the eyeshadow palettes, maybe the blush palette, maybe these 3 palettes. So my 2 eyeshadow palettes and my blush palette, depending on how I'm feeling at the end of November, I might call it quits and just enjoy December using whatever eyeshadow palette I feel like and whatever blush palette I feel like, because I have received I think I've got 2 or 3 blush palettes over the last couple of months that I haven't really had a chance to, you know, fully enjoy and use, and I would like to, you know, take some time to enjoy them and get my thoughts about them. Same with eyeshadow palettes. I have some eyeshadow palettes that I brought this year or that I've received as gifts this year that I still haven't really given a good test of. So far, I'm thinking that's probably going to be my plan of attack for November, or at the November update. So starting off, we might do my Too Faced Love Flush Blush Wardrobe, and this month I did manage to completely use up the color Your Love Is King. I thought that I would get through this one, and I did manage to get through it. I repressed it, and after I repressed it, I ended up getting through it quite quickly because it got quite powdery, and you know, I just powered through it pretty well. And this past, I think, week or week before last, I actually repressed the color Love Hangover, so this is how much I have left of that, but I think I will probably have this one done by the next update as well. And then after that, I think I'm gonna, once I use this one up, I probably will call it quits on this palette until next year. I still think that I'm going to chop this palette up and make it into a 3-pan palette. That might happen sometime in November or December, I'm not quite sure. If I finish this one in, like, say the next week or so, I might, you know, have a play with these 3. But other than that, once I use up Love Hangover, I've decided I'm going to call it quits on this palette for the year. Last month, this one was 124.93 grams, and now it weighs in at 124.69 grams. So yeah, still doing all right progress on this one. Not the best, but I've used up 2 blushes in this palette completely so far this year, and I think I'll definitely get the 3rd one done, and then, you know, I've used up half this palette in a year. I was really hoping that I would use up the entirety of this palette this year, but these Too Faced blushes are really densely packed and they're really quite pigmented, so I just haven't been able to get through them as quickly as I thought I would and as I wanted to. Next is my Anastasia Beverly Hills Mod Renaissance palette, and I was hoping to hit pan on another shade in this palette this month, but that did not happen. I'm aiming to hit pan on another 2 shades in this palette before I finish with it for the year. I think I will definitely get pan on this color Burnt Orange. I'm getting pretty close on this one. And I've been using the color Cypress Umber up in the corner here quite a lot, so I might get pan on that one. I'm not quite sure whether that will happen or not, but I think I'll definitely get Burnt Orange, which means I'll have pan on 6 shades in this palette. I wanted to hit pan on half of this palette, but you know, if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I still think I've done a really good job on this palette so far this year. This one last month weighed in at 184.28 grams, and now it weighs in at 183.85 grams. So that's those two. These ones I'm making pretty good progress on, quite happy with them. And like I said, I think I'll definitely have pan on another shade in the Modern Renaissance palette by the next update, or by the end of the year at least. This packaging, the velvet, God, it gets gross so quickly. My next one is my contour book by Kevin Aucoin. I think that this is the second edition of this palette. This past month, I have basically only been using the highlighter in this palette. That's the Celestial Powder in Candlelight. You can see a little bit. It probably won't show up on camera though. It probably won't show up in the photos either, but there's some wear showing on the pan in that one. Finally, I've used the sculpting powder a little bit, but not that much. I've really been focusing on my ambient lighting palette that I have in my Roulette pan collab. I haven't forgotten about that. I haven't forgotten about that project pan. I just didn't feel like I had enough progress on any of the products these past couple of months to really bother doing an update. But I will definitely do an update this month. And I've also been using some of my cream stick products as bronzers as well. So I've only been using the highlighter in this one. So hopefully we have, a little bit of progress on this. Last month it was 176.48 grams. And now it weighs in at 176.22 grams. So I've used a little bit. I've used like 0.2 of a gram. So not too bad, like considering I've only been using the highlighter. I think I'm making fairly decent progress on this one. I probably won't hit pan on anything in that palette by the end of the year, but it's a good like go-to palette for like an everyday highlighter at the moment. And last but not least is this big guy right here. This is the Lorac. This is the Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette. I introduced this palette last month mainly because there's a lot of creamish colors in here that I can use as like setting colors for eyeshadows. And I thought that they would be pretty easy colors to hit pan on. I haven't hit pan on anything just yet, but I do feel like I'm getting awfully close to pan on at least one shadow, and that's pretty much the only shadow that I have reached for out of this palette this past month. I've been using a lot of different palettes this past month, like on a daily basis. I think for the past maybe 3 weeks, I think since I got my Pat McGrath Mega Mothership palette, Mega Divinity palette, whatever it's called. I think since I've got that palette, I've used like 3 different eyeshadow palettes every day to do my eye look. So that's why I've only got a decent amount of pan in one shade in this palette, and that is the color Cream, this one here. And I think the way I'm going, I think I'm fairly close to hitting pan on this one. That's the only color I've been touching this past month, but once I finish that one, I think I'm gonna move on to the color Fawn and use that as a setting shade. I've also got the color White and Khaki, so this like 4 quad up in the corner here. I think that all 4 of these shades I could easily use as like a primer setting kind of color. And then once I hit pan on the color Burnt Orange in my ABH palette, I can, start using these colors Camel, Sepia, and Brown, like this next quad here. So that's my plan, I think, on this palette. Once again, next month, I think potentially I'll roll this one out. Maybe not. I might just keep it in the project just purely for those like, just purely for these 8 here as like a basic go-to for primer setting and crease colors, and just use it that way. See how much progress I can make on it by the end of the year. Potentially this might be one I might roll back into the project for next year. I don't know. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do in terms of eyeshadow project panning next year. Let me know down in the comments box whether you would prefer me to do a pan that eyeshadow palette, or whether you would prefer me to do the pan those eyeshadows where you work on like one shadow from 5 different palettes at once. Which one do you prefer watching out of those two? Because I could definitely do in this project just like face palettes and maybe an eyeshadow palette as well. And then in the Pan Those eyeshadows, I could focus just on eyeshadows in that project. I'm not quite sure. Haven't decided what I will do next year. If you guys have a preferred way you like to watch those videos, then let me know down in the comments what your preferred like combo of those videos are. And I will endeavor to do that. So this palette last month weighed in at 260.92 grams, and I don't think it's going down by much. And now it weighs in at 260.28 grams. So I've used a fairly decent amount considering I've only been touching one shade. I think if I actually really spent some solid time on this palette, I could definitely hit pan on a large number of shades in this palette. It is actually just like a really pretty neutral palette. That is my October update on my Pan That Palette series. So far, you know, I hit pan on one blush. I finished using up a blush this month. I think next month we will probably see Love Hangover Gone. And I think we'll also see pan in the color Burnt Orange in my Modern Renaissance palette. And I think that we will also see pan in the color Cream out of my Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette as well. So let me know down in the comments box how you are going on your Pan That palettes for 2020. If you did enjoy this video and you haven't already, make sure you click the like button down below. You can also join my membership down there and subscribe to this channel if you want to keep up to date on future content. That's it for this video, everyone. I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I hope that you are staying safe and healthy and looking after yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, beautiful.